Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, not tonight, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
I'm really well. How are you doing, Greg Olear?
Better now. Yeah, better now.
You're having your Manhattan?
I'm having my Manhattan. Yeah.
Are you still having the cherries from the special urn?
Yes.
What's happened?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I'm having the
lovely.
cherries from the special urn.
I'm just having a ginger ale with a squeeze of lime for everybody out there that's not having a beautiful Manhattan with the cherries from the special urn.
So there's a couple things up front in the news. I don't know, things that were late developing. I don't know if you heard.
Oh, no. I've been
Elise Stefanik filed an ethics complaint against Judge Engoron, who's the judge that's presiding over the Trump trial.
Which one? Which Trump trial?
Oh, the fraud trial.
Fraud trial. Yeah, always important.
So I think she was complaining that he has ethics. That's what I read on Twitter. I don't know. I was scanning it. Yeah. And then right before we came on, apparently the FBI has seized the phones of New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Yeah. How is he going to call Turkey now? Now, look, Nadine Menendez is like, well, once they told me when they get the gold bars, but I know you don't like Adams. You've been on this from the beginning, but
that's yes, I have.
I think he's doing a great job, and I'll tell you why. He's way ahead of schedule because usually, corrupt mayors of New York don't get indicted until way after they leave office.
Later.
He's in there,
He hasn't gotten to the hair paint stage, dripping down his face. He hasn't,
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no Four Seasons landscaping or garbage control.
Yeah. He's a prodigy.
He's a prodigy. He's accelerated. Yeah. He's the Vivek Ramaswamy, whatever his name is, of New York mayoral.
Mayordom.
I mean, this guy.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he won't be around much longer.
It should have been Maya Wiley.
I would say that when the FBI seizes your phones, it's bad, except that how many people have had their phones seized by the FBI that have not been indicted yet?
I can't believe I missed this. I'm so excited about it. Yes. He needs to go away forever.
It would be good. So let's get right to it.
Okay. Now, all right. Wait. Let me set my timer because we do 8-minute segments, everybody.
We do.
For those of you new watching us. So I set this timer and we get off and running.
All right, we're off and running. Oh, what do you know? The first one is mobsters.
Oh my goodness.
So they arrested some Gambinos, 10 in Brooklyn, and 6 in Sicily, apparently.
Yeah, Palermo.
And I don't know, you're the expert on this, but I'm reading this thing and they're arresting them for like menacing people with baseball bats. And I know there's other charges too, but I'm like, The Sopranos always got away with that. Like nobody ever went to jail for something so silly and so low. Like, is this how low the mob has fallen? Like, as an Italian person, should I be, oh my God, like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know how to feel. So what's going on here?
Okay. I took a look at it. It's actually much more extensive than just the baseball bats. It is racketeering. Okay. When you hear something called the carding industry, that's basically garbage, right? So it was racketeering and sort of bid rigging, not specifically bid rigging for the carding, but also for demolition, like what the Manafort brothers used to do, right? And might still do. I haven't looked at those guys in a long time. So bid rigging is a big deal. It happens typically through a commission. So this could end up bringing in other crime families that were sort of working together and collaborating together. We don't know yet. We'll see. There's witness intimidation. There's extortion. There's, of course, a fire and people who had a restaurant and they were going to it is straight out of Goodfellas.
It's Artie Bucco. Where's Artie Bucco?
Yeah. Okay? It's got all the good stuff in there, everybody. It's a proper mafia takedown by the FBI, the Organized Crime Unit. So they're still active. There was, look, and there's somebody who was like, clearly they had people that they had flipped earlier in earlier cases, because they're saying that this has been going on for years. They've been tracking these folks for years, and they just sort of brought the hammer down. I think there was a woman who was really violently attacked, and a restaurant owner or threatened or something. Usually something like that happens, then they're like, okay, we got to start arresting people now, rather than just keep collecting and collecting and collecting, because they'll just, they'll collect for years.
No way.
Many people that as they can swept up into the indictment. So it's a 16-count indictment. It's not a little thing. The Gambino crime family, just to kind of remind everybody, because you hear these names, oh, Gambino, and you're like, I can't mix with the Genovese, and there's 3 other of the 5 families, but there's way many more crime families beyond all of that, and they're all in everybody's territory. It's not as divided up as one might think, but because there's been a commission for quite a long time. That's where the commission trials that Rudy Giuliani tried to make his, or did make his sort of stripes with, I guess, as mayor, of taking down the bosses of the 5 families. You guys, I go into all of this history in my audio series, World Beneath. There's more coming, obviously. But the Gambino crime family, and that was an opening scene of my series, was the 2 dead bodies, and figuring out the connection between these 2 dead bodies. And they were both mafia bosses. One was the head of the Russian mafia. The other was the head of really, truly the 5 families at the time, the biggest crime family, which was at that time, in the 85, it was the Gambino crime family. And it was Paul Castellano that got hit. And this is the thing that eventually turned out to be, John Gotti went down for it, even though Sammy Gravano was actually the number 2, and he was the one who coordinated and organized that hit, that professional hit. They tried to frame the Russians for it, but they were already in bed with the Russians. It was just a thing, right? So we haven't, Gambino, was named for Carlo Gambino. And this was one of the Young Turks, Lucky Luciano. These guys kind of came up. That was the original use of that term, Young Turks, as far as I know. And they took over in the after the Castellamarez War, in the wars in like the 30s, which had to do with prohibition, even though they were really the ones running all the distribution. So Gambino was like, he took over for Anastasia, who was kind of a crazy man, right? So then it became called the Gambino crime family when Luciano formed the commission. And so there were 5 families. They had different names. And then Lucky Luciano decided to form a commission after the wars, where everybody would decide on who gets what territory, what kind of industry happens in what territory. And this is when the bid rigging would, it was all that sort of, we're going to be organized now. We're going to organize this crime.
Organized crime. Okay.
We're going to have organized crime, and we're going to be in it together. And have an agreement so we can have peace. And Gambino, there was the head of that family before Gambino was a guy named Anastasia, and he was crazy. He would say crazy shit. He would do crazy things. He was unpredictable, very violent, just couldn't cooperate with anybody, couldn't keep anything straight. Reminds me of someone we're going to talk about in just a little bit, just like nutbag, right? And psychopathic, and wanted all the power for himself. And so they got rid of him. And Luciano was like, he's too hard, even though it was one of his buddies, one of the Young Turks. And they named Gambino the head of that family, which renamed the family Gambino crime family. So those are the origins. Then there was the Appalachian meeting. Everybody remembers that. That scene has been immortalized in many movies, where you see all the guys running in the upstate New York through the cow fields, and like, okay, that's when it all got organized and went down. At that point in time, they also closed the books. So there weren't any more made men for a long time. And then in the 70s, they started sort of making men again. Like, so you could get made, you could do certain violent acts or bring in certain things and actually become a made man in this family. That is a tradition that Gambino and the Mustache Pete's before him brought from Sicily. Okay, so that there's a Sicilian connection to this current takedown, these indictments, is telling you that the ties between the Gambino family and Sicily are continue to exist and are probably pretty strong. So in the 70s, the books were open, what called opening up the books again, and men got made again. And that's when Gravano got made. That's when Gotti got made. And then what did they do? They turned around in I think less than a decade and took out their head of the Gambino crime family at that time, who had taken over from Carlo Gambino, Paul Castellano. Now we'll sort of see who gets named there's a lot of variations in terms of who's the head of these crime families now, and how strong they are. But what's clear in this, because we did have 6 indicted from Sicily, this was a coordinated operation between the Italian investigators, specifically around Palermo. I think 4 or 5 different agencies there, and the Eastern District of New York is where it's being tried, and the FBI basically in New York, the Organized Crime Unit. So we'll see. Now, just as a quick, so you guys can all have this. A couple years ago, there was another issue with the Gambino crime family and their connections to Italy, and some businesses that were getting disrupted, and some cooperation with the Italian folks. That looks like it's connected to this. So maybe we'll hear more about that. Like maybe that's where they were able to turn a witness and follow people. But I was getting around to this. One of the things that we know happened in this thing is that they actually had the rituals coming back for made men. So somebody became a made man in these crimes, the particular crimes that are connected to the indictment. So it could be that we're seeing the books are open again. The Italians are back in helping coordinate. They've been strong. There's like 96 crime families, I think, something crazy like that in Italy right now, or possibly even in Sicily. There's a lot. The big ones are the Camorras out of Napoli, or Naples, that are connected all throughout the region, and the Ndrangheta, which are very, very dangerous. Both of those crime families are part of a global crime syndicate that people like Bob Mueller, back when we were hunting terrorists connected to 9/11, were giving speeches of mourning about. So this stuff never went away. It's very, very strong in Europe. It appears to be gaining ground in New York, and it's a perfect time to throw out a foreign corrupted fucking mayor. That's what's actually going on here, on the payroll of Turkey. If that's what's going on here, at least his number one advisor, whatever was. So the foreign influence in New York has been a big problem. It's always been a big problem. It's been a huge problem since the 90s, since the Russian mafia came in and swept in and worked, as my research shows, seemingly with Giuliani, to sweep out these the heads of the 5 families. And now we're seeing a possibility of that foreign influence, specifically Italy. We'll see if it branches bigger than that, coming back into the fold and exerting their same kind of influence over New York that it's been this global center for a while. That's been happening for about 3 decades now in earnest. So that's it. I just wanted to give everybody the update on all that. I know people might have seen it going around Twitter of like, oh my God, what are these indictments? And you asked me how, is it lame? What, are they just showing up? Have we fallen? Is this baseball bat time? I think it's a pretty big case, but we'll see.
Okay. That's good. That's encouraging,
Yeah.
I didn't know. And I guess also the other news is that you could apparently get made by menacing someone with a baseball bat.
You apparently can. Yeah. I don't know if it was particularly that crime.
Yeah.
There were some fires. There's obviously union pensions got raided. All the typical stuff that comes with the mafia that we saw rise in the 70s and 80s as being this big, big powerhouse before those commission trials. All of those charges are back. All of that behavior is back. So we'll see was it just a little local thing, or is this something quite widespread? Typically the Italian authorities don't come in and collaborate.
Yeah.
unless it's something pretty big. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, start the
Okay.
timer.
All right.
Start the timer.
I'm starting it.
Speaking of mobsters,
Yeah.
Trump on trial.
Trump on trial.
Trump on trial. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I want to ask your thoughts too. What
That
happened?
was funny for some reason. I almost did a spit take. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Let me hear all of your thoughts.
Well, no, I was looking at the coverage, okay, of the thing, because again, this week Trump himself testified.
Yeah.
This is for the fraud case in New York, and then later in the week, the kids testified, and Ivanka showed up. Okay, and I had been looking at Twitter about, Trump was yelling at the judge and all this kind of stuff, and I wanted to know what was going on, and I went to read the New York Times article about it.
Yeah.
And I the way that these fuckers are framing this stuff is it's really okay.
The New York Times, you mean?
Yes.
Not
okay.
Ivanka. Yeah.
Yeah. This is published on November 6th by Jonah Bromwich and Ben Protis. Okay. The headline, which I believe it changed, was Trump assails judge and concedes a role in valuing his empire's property, which is a big deal. So here's the article. He was belligerent and brash, unrepentant and verbose. Regardless of the courtroom setting, he was the quintessential Donald J. Trump.
Oh, God.
Fuck me, right? Okay. Within minutes of Mr. Trump's taking the witness stand on Monday, his civil fraud trial in Manhattan devolved into a chaotic spectacle before a packed house. The former president lashed out at his accusers and denied their claims, even while conceding involvement in some of the conduct at the case's heart. Ranting and rambling as the courtroom pulsed with tension, Mr. Trump attacked New York's Attorney General, Letitia James, as a, quote, political hack. He derided the proceeding as a very unfair trial, and he scolded the judge overseeing the case, Arthur F. Engeron, for having decided before the trial that he'd committed fraud. He called me a fraud, and he didn't know anything about me, Mr. Trump exclaimed from the stand, pointing at the judge, who flashed a grin. The outburst demonstrated the former president's disdain for a case that's already imperiled his family business and labeled him a fraud and a cheat. Mrs. James, who has become one of Mr. Trump's arch antagonists, has not only put his company on trial, but also called into question the richer-than-rich persona that he built over his years as a businessman and reality television star, the identity that propelled his run for the White House. Is it me, or is that fucking ridiculous?
It's ridiculous, and I love the voice you chose for that, because it does sound like breaking news now, headlines from inside the courtroom. It's like, it's very 1940s and 50s. It's very like muck rocker journal. Like, let's just get,
Like, I want to insert
LA
my own cleverness.
Danny DeVito and LA Confidential. This is what I feel like we're in.
Yes.
It's very much
The
in that
Tatler,
vein.
the hush hush.
Yeah, hush hush. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's ridiculous. It's like a Hearst. What are we back in the days of the Hearst magazines?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It gets worse.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Now, November 9th. And again, and this is by Vanessa Friedman. And a lot of people were talking about this on Blue Sky. So I did not. Kevin Cruz posted something, but this has been going around.
Get over there. Yeah.
Okay. It's from the style section. Trump family trial style is the title.
No.
Okay. It's a style writer.
Wait,
okay,
wait, stop. You're telling me that in the style section of the New York Times, they're covering the fashion of the trial?
No, I'm telling you that they used a fashion writer to cover it, the fashion, and put it on the fucking front page of the paper. That's what I'm telling you.
No.
Yes. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Ooh, okay.
The New York Attorney General's office has finished presenting its case in the civil fraud trial of former President Donald J. Trump. The first act of the first episode in the extended series known as the Trump lawsuits has come to an end. The defense begins next week when 4 more criminal cases are pending. The show, however, is only beginning. Mr. Trump is, after all, a man who has always seen the presidency as perhaps the ultimate expression of reality TV. This stage may not be of his own choosing, but that doesn't mean there isn't opportunity involved, especially since his 3 adult children from his first marriage were also there, playing their usual parts, down to the costumes. Welcome to the new season of Trump Family Trial Style. It involves a somewhat different look for the brand, one that's notably, blue. The guest star of the week was Ivanka Trump. making a
No.
reluctant return to center stage after announcing on Instagram last year that she was stepping out of the political limelight. She was in the focus of the week's final scene, flying up from her home in Florida, emerging from the bowels of a black town car to make her entrance in a navy wool coat and navy pantsuit, a
No.
black leather tote clutched in one hand, tiny pearl studs in her ears, and with her blonde hair falling in soft waves around her face.
No.
The picture of gentle, pulled together professionalism and goodwill. That was always her role in the family, in the White House drama, the rational actor, there to talk some restraint into her more bombastic action man dad. Front fucking page in the New York Times.
No.
And again, this isn't her fault. She's supposed to write a style piece, but the editors of the Times put it on the front page.
I'm appalled.
Doug Balloon.
I haven't read that crap paper for years, but there was that's appalling. That I wouldn't even line a kitty litter with that.
I don't know what else. I mean, we're in a stage now, as we'll see when our guest comes in.
Oh,
okay,
my God.
we're in a very precarious position where if this guy wins, we are fucked. It's just over. Democracy's over, and that's it. And the paper of record is treating him like he's a fucking, not even a rock star. Like it's weird. I don't even know what this is. Like
It's not the paper of record anymore.
Then what
We need
is
to
then?
stop saying that. We need a different, you and I will come up with a different phrase for that crap.
The Niet is what I called it. It put the little E into the NYT.
The Niet.
Yeah, but you know, I don't know.
Wow.
I'm a little scared by this. I mean, they have either they haven't learned or they're intentionally.
Oh, this is intentional.
Yeah.
What do you mean haven't learned?
Yeah, I know.
This is appalling. Oh, I'm just disgusted.
Yeah. The New York Times pitchbot screenshotted it and shared it because it sounds like something he would write. Doug J. Balloon.
I mean, he can't top that.
Mm-hmm. That's what he does when he can't top it, when the streams are crossed and the singularity is achieved. He's like,
my God.
That's it. Here we go. You know, the satirical thing has become the thing.
Listen, if people haven't canceled their subscriptions, I don't know what they're waiting for. Really, truly. And I don't want to hear that, oh, there's good journalists and you don't want to punish them.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then, it's wow.
I know. It's bad. It's very bad.
Wow.
It's bad. Okay. I don't have anything more to add on this. I couldn't believe it. I was really.
I think there's going to be a movie with Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey, like based on this style writer's writing.
Oh my God! And again, not her fault. She was asked to write a piece about the style, so I'm not blaming her. But you know, come on.
Wow. All right, I can't. I'm appalled. Is there anything that you've got there that is more offensive, so that, and it's just in the characters that we could maybe just shift and pivot off of?
No, I've got nothing. I got nothing. We have a, did you have something in mind?
Well, I think there's something you might want to play.
Oh, no, I was going to say we have a new sponsor.
Yeah.
It's always nice when we have sponsors.
Yeah, we stole them from the New York Times.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Is online pornography ruining your social life? Can't stop consuming erotic content? Concerned about a loved one looking at X-rated videos? Hi, I'm Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, here to tell you about Second Coming, the new porn substitute app from NoFap Technologies. With Second Coming, you don't have to worry about worshiping graven images, because you won't see any. Here's how it works. Every time the user tries to access porn, the app redirects the browser to more acceptable content, like films about gladiators, the Wikipedia entry for Greco-Roman wrestling, high-res images of Michelangelo's David, or footage of Tim Tebow doing calisthenics. Porn addiction keeping you down? Rise again with Second Coming. Check out our page on OnlyFans. Second Coming. It's a revelation. And now, back to the show. That's it. I don't know. I think this is going to do very well.
I don't know.
I think it's going to do very well.
Yeah. Well,
I wish the Speaker of the House. I didn't know he had this Are you allowed to endorse products when you're the House Speaker? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't
he's got there's Goya beans and then there's this.
Right. Okay. We shall ask our guest. I suppose she will know. She's a former senior staffer to 2 Republican senators. She's an author, a political commentator, speechwriter. You've seen her on CNN and all over the place. She used to be at the Bulwark. Now she's at Protect Democracy. Amanda Carpenter. Welcome.
Amanda Carpenter.
Hey, how's it going? Although I gotta tell you, Friday night, and it's like MAGA Magic Mike talking about the second coming. Like it's a little rough.
You need to have more drinks. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
No, I have a Propel watermelon. It's like an electrolyte drink, so I'm getting ready for my run tomorrow. That is
Very
that is my
exciting.
cocktail of the night.
How many miles?
you're a
How many miles are
marathoner
you
now.
running tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm doing 10, but
Okay.
it's super exciting because I'm going to cross the 1,000-mile mark for the year. And
Oh my gosh.
so I'm with my
Amanda.
group. It's going to be a fun day. So I didn't really know that
Congratulations.
was going to be the day, but tomorrow's the day. So that's
Wow.
cool.
That's
Wow.
999 miles more than I run this year.
Yeah.
So I think it's good.
I didn't think I'd be doing this ever, but it just kind of happened, and I'm into it. So
It's good. It's good. Now, you've been doing a lot of work, good work over there at Protect Democracy, and a lot of things that you've had your eye on. One of the things is Trump's behavior in the courtroom. Now, we talked about this very fleetingly by me making fun of the New York Times.
yeah, what did he wear? Right? We got to talk about the important things.
He wore
right?
blue. He wore a blue tie.
Yeah.
Oh my God! They all
What
wore the
makeup?
same
I need a
thing.
makeup review. I would read a Donald Trump makeup review. To be honest,
That's what
still
it was
dying to know
missing.
what bronzer that is.
Yeah. It needed a good punch, a comedic punch up for sure.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my goodness.
what's going on? Like he's just belligerent and assholic, and there's a purpose to this because otherwise everything is just sort of going according to plan. So what did you guys conclude? What's the purpose?
Yeah, so this is what, we're watching the trials happen, and I was talking. So Protect Democracy, it was formed in 2017. My boss is a wonderful, wonderful man named Ian Basson, who he was the ethics lawyer in the the Obama Justice Department. So it was his job to sort of say like, okay, this is what you can do. This is what you can't do in the Obama Justice Department. He was there at that time. I was working for Senator DeMint and Ted Cruz.
Oh,
So it's really funny that we're working together now. And so he formed Protect Democracy in 2017 because he was worried about like, okay, we're sort of worried about the fact that Trump wants to have all these contacts with the Justice Department. And I know that's not a good thing to do. Like super, like in the early days of the Trump administration, right? And so, then that spiraled into all these other ethics concerns. And so now we see Trump, talking about weaponization, how he's going to take over the Justice Department and all this stuff. But when I'm watching the trial right now, I don't care about it, what Ivanka's wearing. I don't care about, Don Jr. mouthing off to people. What I see is a former president resisting any accountability under the law, right? Like this is the story of Donald Trump. He resists any form of accountability, no matter if it's impeachment, no matter if it comes to the January 6th investigation, no matter if it comes to the civil fraud trials. Like he thinks he's above the law, right? And so when he's mouthing off in the courtroom, attacking the judge, attacking the jury, putting, jurors in danger in Fulton County, like this is not just, Donald Trump's antics in court, like the New York Times story that you were talking about, setting it up. Like this isn't just him being Donald Trump again.
Yeah.
He is leveraging another presidential campaign against the rule of law. Like really, that is what is at stake here. Like whether the 2024 presidential campaign is a choice about whether we are going to hold a former president accountable or restore him to power, right? And then once he is in power again, he's very clear about what he's going to do. And he doesn't speak from a teleprompter that often, but he did when he launched his campaign in Waco, Texas. He was very deliberate, speaking from the teleprompter, and he says, I am your retribution. That is a campaign promise. So how do those words become action? He's very deliberate about it. He's going to take over the Justice Department, and he's going to prosecute people. Like he was joking around about Hillary Clinton, maybe in 2016. You can say, oh, that was fun and games. Well, there was people that stopped him from doing the really outrageous stuff. In a Trump 2.0, those people will not be there anymore. Donald Trump tried to make Jeff Sessions stop investigations against him when it came to Russia, right? Fired him, special counsel, blah, blah, blah. Even Jeff Sessions won't be there the next time around. And so, like, that's what I want the New York Times to talk about. Don't put it in the style section. It's not a joke when he attacks the judge. He is resisting accountability under the law, and he wants to be restored to power to make sure he will never be held accountable again. And so those are all the things that go through my mind when I see those clips and read the New York Times story.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot in there. Do you have a sense in terms of how you've been following this of where I take him, everything I take these, I never thought it was a joke. It's all serious. These are all threats. This is exactly what a member of an organized crime family would, you don't want them anywhere near any kind of hall of power where they can have the handles on the departments of justice that would be overseeing their criminality, right? And holding checks and balances of the country, because they're just going to tear down every single guardrail. People think Putin is, all about just, he's trying to put the Soviet Union back together, or he's like this, or he's chaotic, or he's whatever. It's just like, the Joker in the Heath Ledger's version of that, right? In The Dark Knight, where it's just like, he just wants to see the world burn. It's like, no, actually, and it's like, it's all going to come back and haunt him. It's like, actually, no, he's specifically tearing down and poking the eyes out and corrupting any of the institutions, the international institutions that are the guardrails that his crime syndicates would come up against when it comes to how he loots money and hoards it and takes things. Oh, by the way, guys, one of the things that also was in there was the reason the baseball bats showed up, Greg, is somebody failed to pay a tribute. And so they came with their bats to extract the tribute. And what a tribute is, it's what you pay the crime family, right? That you have to pay if you're in business in their territory. So I'm wondering who it is that's on the top of this gangsters list. He gets back into power. He tears down the Department of Justice. Who's in his sights, Amanda? Who is it that he's going after first and foremost? Is it Jack Smith?
I have the perspective as a, OG never Trump Republican. I was never Trump from the moment he came down the golden escalator. It's sort of a hot take, controversial opinion, but I think Republicans have felt the brunt the hardest and worst from him, at least over the past few years. If you look at the people, when Donald Trump talks about retribution, him and, all of his allies, the people the veterans of the first Trump administration, the people they are the most mad at, they have the most frustration. And if there's a list, they're on it. It's the so-called deep state, right? It's the Trump appointees that stood in his way. It's the Mark Milley. It's the Bill Barr. It's those people that they have the most amount of hate for, because had it not been for them, Trump probably would have been reoelected again.
So
right?
is it Mike Pence?
No, not Mike Pence. It's like a Mark Milley, a John Kelly, a Bill Barr. Those are the people that get talked about the most.
Okay.
And, it wasn't a few weeks
Not
ago, right?
Letitia James.
Billy of treason.
You don't think he's going to go for the black women first that are trying to hold him accountable under the law?
Those are in there, but when you watch the online forums, I'm just saying, the people who are at the top of the list are the people who stopped him in the past.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It can be a changing target, but he's accused Milley of treason a few times.
That's true.
When you're talking about former Joint Chiefs of Staff, and so this is kind of what is in my head. So we talk about where were the guardrails in the first Trump administration, because when I talk to people who, I call them the bargainers, right? Like they think, Biden, Trump, it's the same. Like the economy is better under Trump. That's not true. But people I see in the world believe this. And you have to kind of explain to them, no, it won't be the same next time. And so they say, why? And you have to say, well, the people that stopped Trump from doing the really bad things won't be there anymore. They say, what do you mean? Okay. like Congress, for example, there's no Republican resistance in Congress anymore.
Yeah.
If somebody was going to stand up to Trump and say, don't do this, whether it's like, seizing Department of Justice, or excuse me, DHS funds for the border wall, don't do this, do it a different way. Like, nobody can tell him no anymore because they've all been purged. They're gone. I mean, you don't have even Kevin McCarthy running the House anymore. It's Magic MAGA Mike. And so it just gets very difficult to say it will be better next time, because all the so-called, even the responsible people, you're not going to get a chief of staff, John Kelly, in a Trump 2.0. Who are you going to get? Who's going to be Trump's chief of staff the second time around?
Oh, probably Ivanka. I mean, I don't know if she wants to stick around for any of this anymore.
No, I
And
think
also,
it'll be much more radical than that. Like that was Trump 1.0. The kids are gone.
Yeah, it's presuming that he's not going to be in prison. So we'll see, or charged in some way.
Excuse me.
He can still be president when he's in prison.
Why would he be in prison? If he gets elected, he can pardon himself, which he said he has absolute power to do. Like, this is the thing I'm probably most obsessed about is the pardons.
Yeah. Yeah. DeSantis would have to pardon him as well. He'd have to get, there are state crimes. He can't pardon himself from the state crimes that he's facing. And Georgia,
not DeSantis,
the
but
governors can.
Yeah.
The governors of those states would have to pardon him. And I'm not holding out hope for Republican governors to not pardon him. I mean, come on.
So let's if he wins the election, which I think he can in a very legitimate way, he is going to be in power. All these investigations go away. He will have the power of the presidency. There will be governors that will do his bidding, and we will be in uncharted territory at that point.
Now you've done some deep dives into this Agenda 47, which is basically him tinkering with the DOJ, and what he will do, walking in the door. What have you found out? What can we expect?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably broader than Agenda 47. And so what is interesting is that since the Trump era, so, I am a conservative in the previous iteration. I believe in limited government. What has changed through the Trump era is that all of the conservative legal activist community, and I'm not even talking about FedSoc, I'm talking about people, the Trump legal people, they have embraced this idea that there should be no sense of independence at any federal agency, right? So what does this mean? So traditionally, we think about the Department of Justice having independent prosecutors. The president doesn't meddle in federal investigations. All of that is just kind of upheld, that concept that we all believe in, that's been upheld by many other administrations. It's just kind of on your honor. It's because staffers believe in saying that the president should not interfere in these things. You have an Office of Legal Counsel that would tell him not to. So Trump comes in, he gets his staff in, and they say, we're not doing that anymore, which is what they're all saying. You look at what the Claremont Institute is saying, Heritage People, Center for Renewing America, all the former Trump administration lawyers, they're on board with this idea that there will be no more independence in the agencies, not only at the Department of Justice, but all of them, because they want to put all the agencies under the president's direct authority. And their reasoning is, which is not correct, but this is what they will say, is that under Article 2 of the Constitution, the president has the power to direct federal agencies. And so when he is elected, he has a mandate to enact his agenda, and therefore all the people in the agencies should abide by whatever he says.
Yeah, I mean,
if that's what they want to do, they can do it.
It's frightening, and none of it's a surprise. There's been a great reinterpreting of everything, starting, I think the insurrection was one of the biggest, and all of that election chicanery was one of the biggest examples of it, but had been going on since the beginning. He got in as president, and I think that what he taught everybody was this sort of line of questioning of like, I'm going to do this. And they're like, well, no, you can't really do that. Why? Is it illegal?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just not what we do. Well, then fuck it. I'm doing it. And everyone learned that. It's like, I used to compare this to the kid in the schoolyard in elementary school, where the teacher would come up and sort of give the thing, right? Or the schoolyard thing is like, well, you can't do that. Well, who are you going to make me? You're going to make me?
Mm-hmm.
And because the bully figures out they're not going to do anything. Everyone's just agreeing to a set of norms, right? And one of the failures of the last 3 years is that there were tremendous amount of awareness over where we had norms that were just being shattered, that needed to be codified into some type of rule of law, that just everyone sort of lost that. They lost that thread. They lost that urgency. They lost the will to do that, or the wanting to do that. And so things just kept getting stripped down and stripped down and stripped down by this extreme party, in this two-party system that has now control over the House. So I don't know. I none of it's surprising, but it's all horrific. And I so appreciate you reminding everybody what the stakes actually are. These are the stakes. And it's very disappointing that we don't have a news media now, with the ones with the biggest platforms, continuing to put the stakes of this coming election in front of everyone the way that you just did it. So where can we get your stuff, Amanda? Like where do we, I know you say you're with Democracy. It's Democracy Now?
Yeah, no, I'm with Protect Democracy.
Protect Democracy.
I'm on
I'm so
Twitter,
sorry.
but yeah, I am, I'm the editor there. We're going to be doing a lot more writing, getting some things out because they have so many fabulous legal minds, and I'm just trying to work with them and try to pump content out.
Right.
And we have a lot of, big ideas on how to do that.
Well, what's something that we can do in addition to voting? Like, what's something we can raise awareness around that you would say this would actually be really important for people to know and to continue to press the current administration on, or somebody, the Senate? What do we do?
Yeah,
What can we do?
I mean, this is one of the things that I am actually just thinking through as a part of my job now, is that how do you tell people that it will happen to you, right? Like there's this idea that we were okay in the first Trump administration. It was fine, but this has a way of seeping down, right? Like we're blessed to live in America. We're blessed to have these voting rights. If we don't carefully guard it, I mean, think about a Trump 2.0, where he has the ability to order investigations into anyone or any institution that he perceives as being an obstacle to his agenda. We are very close to that happening. It may not happen to you. You may not get an IRS audit, but it will probably happen to someone you know. Or if you are a teacher, like you're already seeing this happening in academia, schools, people afraid of book bans. It is sort of happening to you already. And so I just want people to think about that. Like, how will this change your life? That's all. Do that for the weekend.
That's a good assignment. But that's a good way to frame it too, because I think with politics, often, everybody runs on the sort of wedge issues, so-called, but they don't really impact your life in it. Usually it's not you personally that's being impacted by certain things, but when things really do touch people's lives, that's when they start to wake up. I always thought, like in the early days of everything, that the healthcare system would get to a point where it would affect enough people negatively that everybody would demand some sort of change, and it hasn't happened yet. But something like that would absolutely affect everybody in this country, pretty much in a negative way across the board. I mean, no matter, certainly anybody who's not a guy is, in trouble. Yeah. And anybody who's not straight is in trouble. And anybody who's not white is in trouble. And anybody who's not Christian is in trouble, really. So
anybody who doesn't support the authoritarian is in trouble.
That's a small group of people right there. And they're not fun. They're not fun people. They're not people we want in charge of anything. We don't even want them running I don't even want them coaching a softball team. They should be around no power whatsoever. It's that, the Brett Kavanaugh type coaching the girls basketball is always stuck in my head, like just yelling and trying to manipulate these young women. to do what he wants, you know.
That's so weird
and
because that's the thing. Brett Kavanaugh coaching girls basketball does not work for me at all.
it's a symbol of the
I've
whole.
had so
of the
many
whole
male coaches like that. That's not the scary thing. Don't do that.
Okay, it's scary to me.
Yeah, it's. I do think you just kind of sideways stepped into something though of. Usually with a strong man, especially one with real fascistic tendencies and desires, there is a focus on youth and corrupting the youth, radicalizing the youth, bringing in making sure that you can be a forever strong man, right? So you need those young generations in your wheelhouse. I want to pivot because we're going to get into, if you'll stick around with us, Amanda, I'd love to get into our next segment where we talk about the elections we just had and how Democrats, of course, outperformed. We always have these scary polls. You know, I'd love to get your take on the scary polls. The scary polls are always like, it's a red wave and Joe Biden is or whatever it is. It's always bad. It's horrible for the Dems. And then come election day, it's like, oh, it's a big sweep. Oh, who knew? You know, so there's some kind of thing going on there. But Gen Z is such an important factor for the 2024 election. They are motivated to vote. We're probably going to see finally a youth vote. And I feel like the current political climate and what's happening in the Mideast and all these things and what's happening on college campuses now is it's being opportunistic in terms of forces that are coming in to try to pull that youth vote away from Democrats and radicalize them in one extreme or the other. Just pick an extreme and radicalize these young people. So the opportunity for that scares me because of the climate we're in right now. But I'd love to, if you'll stick around with us, I'd love to get into this next topic and hear your thoughts on what we just went through with this recent election on Tuesday and what you think that portends or does not portend for next fall.
Sure.
Yeah.
Start the timer.
That's the question. I got the timer going. I got it going, Amanda.
Okay.
Am I just supposed to talk?
Yeah.
This is a free-form show. You know, this is chaos here.
What do you think about about the election, the polls, and the youth vote?
Well, the most interesting thing that I was focused on about the election this week was the fact that Glenn Youngkin sort of went down and losing the legislature in Virginia and the school board seats that the Moms for Liberty type candidates just totally got wiped out. So that was what I was focused on, and how that plays into the GOP primary that really isn't a primary, to be honest, that's happening right now, and what that sets up ahead. I mean, it's just sort of interesting. It's like there's this like obsession about looking at the second tier candidates while Donald Trump steamrolls his way to the nomination through the courtrooms. Like the fact that Donald Trump was in court this week. Right. Do you remember it was a big deal? Do you remember when it was a big deal when we were supposed to get his mugshot? Right. Like,
yeah,
mugshot, wait for the mugshot. Everybody will have it everywhere. That didn't really happen. Now he's in court. Like, I don't even watch it. I take a look at it, read the news reports. It doesn't matter. And yet he's still going to be the Republican nominee. And yet we pretend to have this Republican debate. Was it 2 nights ago? Where we're watching Nikki Haley beat Ron DeSantis for second place. And maybe like there was a big summit with all the donors a few weeks ago to try to like have this last ditch campaign to get Glenn Youngkin in the race. And so it's hard for me to see anything except for Donald Trump is going to be the Republican presidential nominee, and that hasn't set in for people. Right.
There's no chance he's not going to be it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like
he's their nominee. I mean, that's maybe those people are thinking this is a VP ticket run, but he's just going to go pick Kristi Noem anyway because he thinks she's.
He said he's going to have Tucker Carlson this week.
Oh,
He
okay.
said
Or
he thought Tucker
Tucker.
Carlson was good.
Tucker, because Tucker can deliver an audience.
Why doesn't he just pick Viktor Orban and eliminate the middleman?
There you
Right?
go.
Better. Yeah.
Perfect. He can
Mhm.
call Eric Adams. Maybe Eric Adams also has somebody working for Hungary on his payroll. I don't know.
He's Turkey. It's Turkey. You know,
Well,
Eric
that's
Adams is
Erdogan.
Turkey.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because Thanksgiving. You know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're,
Yeah, we need Erdogan.
ready for Thanksgiving.
Holy cow!
So
I can't believe these conversations.
the one thing that's interesting to me, though, with the GOP debates, which I have not watched 1 minute of any of them, is
None of them.
But I think that the ratings, at least for the first one, were much higher than people anticipated, which could indicate that maybe they do want somebody that isn't Trump. I don't know. I mean, is that
No,
or is
they're
that
all
just
fighting for the same 20%.
yeah?
You know, Donald Trump is running away with it, and they're all fighting for scraps. I mean, it is. I'm really sort of angry at the news media because they play up these debates like, oh, we will hold the debate. We will, have all the candidates come and answer our questions. The Republican primary electorate does not care. They don't care. They don't want to watch NBC grill these candidates. They don't even care if Fox Business or Fox News does it. If Donald Trump isn't there, they're not watching. The end. And so, like, we do this all, everybody assembles and act like it's going to be a big deal. Nobody's watching. It's just like, it seems like this insane, outdated relic that is only for the networks and nobody else.
Oh,
It's interesting. I know people that, in my own life who watch some of these things who have no fucking idea about any of this. So I don't know. But having said that, I agree that there's no way Trump is not going to be the nominee. I mean, it's just not.
no.
I think it's, unless even if he's in prison, in fact, if he's in jail, I think it probably helps him at this point because he could be deep state martyr,
Well, he'll play. We already said years ago he'll play all those strings. I think it's just a shame we don't have cameras in the courtrooms. I can't think of anything.
Oh, really? What do you think that would add? I mean, honestly, I think it's kind of nice that there's not, because otherwise it would just be a show. I'm actually worried about what's going to happen in Georgia when we do have cameras in the courtroom.
Because when the evidence, there are cases coming for him where as the evidence is laid out, and even this New York case, as the evidence is laid out, that there would be, if we could see it, there would be for the American public and the world a sort of wave of like, okay, it's just so much criminality. There's a point where it just, yes, he'll still be the folk hero for the people who want their funny ass clown, right? That just makes them feel good about their loser lives or their prejudice or whatever it is that they like about him, whatever grievance it is that he's helped tap in, because he's taps into all of them. But it would be, to me, I think, for so many Americans that are just checked out, it would just be a spectacle that no one would want, and a spectacle of criminality that just is sort of like, yeah, we're not going to do this. It would work. I do believe that. I also believe, irrespective of that, as an American, I cannot believe I'm not being allowed to watch this.
Yeah.
So regardless of what way it goes, to talk about, does the public have a need to know and a need to witness this? I can't imagine any other kind of trial where we would absolutely have the right to watch it and to get all the information. So it's also just egregious. I understand that Jack Smith was the one who didn't want it because everyone's afraid that he'll just take the cameras and run with the cameras because he knows what to do that. Well, then get your shit together and figure out how to run with the cameras yourself. I can run with a camera. You guys can't figure out how to fucking run with the cameras. You can't figure out how to object. You can't, come on. So it's about also bring your game up. There's a fear thing that if everyone's in this fear, oh, don't give him the thing. And that's just keeping him equally. It's an equal thing to do as like, oh no, we don't want to give him the attention. But the fear around all that makes him mythic.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's multiple trials, right? So I would say no cameras in the courtroom for his civil fraud trial in New York, right? Because that's what his conduct as a private citizen before and after the
Right.
presidency. When it comes to crimes that he committed as president, I do think that's different. And
Because he
I
committed
do
those crimes against us.
yeah. And so, yeah,
I'm the
I would buy
fucking
the
victim.
accessibility argument, but to get the effect you want, I would argue, listen, we all saw January 6th. We had the January 6th investigations. You know,
And they
that
were
didn't
very effective,
necessarily
and then they stopped.
well, it was
So
effective for a midterm. It was not effective in eroding support among Republican voters who are
actually,
going to make him the nominee again.
I would disagree with that. There was supposed to be, again, this huge red wave, and I do think that those January 6th
Mhm.
commission hearings cut that lead down to these very, very slim, tiny margins. Yes, it's still a win, but
Mhm.
it was, come on. The Dems did great consider in the face of all that, and the Republicans
I thought
did
Liz Cheney
poorly
did
with the
great.
expectations. So
She did. She did.
the
Yeah.
what?
Liz Cheney
No,
did
I've
great.
just been giving a Liz Cheney plug. I mean, those
She did. She
those
protected
hearings
Ginny,
would
which
not
was a goddamn
have had.
shame, but she
Yeah,
showed up. So, they're just always going to protect their own. But I do think that it had a huge, huge impact, and that's nothing. What we know now when it comes to criminality, when you have a prosecutor in there, when you're in a courtroom and not in a we're all going to be cordial in this commission hearing, even though that was they did I think a good job, excellent job. It was all Republicans who were showing up to say this guy's terrible. So and he did what he did. Showing the actual crimes, seeing the text, having the evidence laid out, having the jury there, everybody's being, we actually can hear the crimes that were committed against us. That's going to go a long way. And not only that, I have every right to bear witness to it. I'm the victim. You're the victim. We're the victims of that crime. To not allow us in the courtroom is an affront.
The other
And I'm
thing is
saying
that
this as someone who's about to go into a fucking courtroom as a victim of another crime, a horrible one, in a couple of months. So to keep us out of that is not the way that the justice system, I would think, in this side of it, should be working. And I'm absolutely opposed to it. And I do think it'll have a huge impact. And if the country falls, the country fucking falls. Right? If this guy has that much power, then it's over already. What are we doing?
the one thing that we don't know is what effect it would have. We know what effect it wouldn't have because we've seen it up till now. So we
Right.
might as well try. Before we let you go, because I know you've got to go.
Yeah.
Because somebody's got to run more miles tomorrow than
more
I'm gonna run.
miles than any person should.
Briefly, you did a little digging into this no labels, and
yeah.
I'm not really that worried about the spoiler votes this time. There's too many little candidates, Cornel West and Jill Stein. They brought her back, and RFK seems to be already gone, and Joe Manchin, I think, has no constituency beyond like his kids, his Maserati dealer, and the board of directors at the company that makes.
Don't forget his houseboat dealer.
Yes, and the houseboat deal. So, like,
Right.
I'm not that afraid, but there was some point about no labels that you were bringing up that seemed scary.
Yeah. So the thing about no labels, everyone talks about the spoiler effect that they could play if they get a candidate and they do all these things. That is actually not the scariest thing that could come out of this. So let's say they get their mythical, wonderful Republican, middle of the road unity ticket candidate. Like, right, they get that. They have a ton of money. They can get ballot access. Let's say they just go all in on Maine, where you can get a couple electoral votes, maybe Utah, maybe Alaska, states that have ranked choice voting, where a centrist candidate would be appealing to the voters. They could play a spoiler role, not for Biden, but for depriving Trump and Biden of getting the necessary 270 electoral votes to win. So what happens if none of the candidates get 270 electoral votes? It is a contingent election. What does that mean? That means the House decides. What does that mean?
Oh, Amanda.
Actually, nobody knows, because the process to run that election is one of these gray areas that isn't really written out. In the House, whoever the speaker is at the time would run that process. And so, it is written in the Constitution that they would vote by delegation, but there's like lots of, process rules that they could play into that. And then there's a scenario: what if a candidate dies? That gets awfully tricky too, because at that point you have to choose between the 3 top candidates. You cannot take anyone off. And so there's just a lot of potential if No Labels gets into just a couple states. They don't have to win. They only have to get a couple electoral votes. And their consultants are on the record talking about how, well, if there was a contingent election, we would have leverage and we could make deals. And that would be a chance to show our influence. And so there are consultants out there. And again, they have a lot of money. They have ballot access, who think this is like a justifiable way to have leverage over the outcome of the next presidential election. And so we wrote about that, all those scenarios at Protect Democracy with my colleague, Ben. It is scary. Don't read it before you go to bed at night, but it's just one of those things. This is why you don't mess with presidential elections. And I am someone that I would like to see more third parties. I would like to have more competitiveness when it comes to the 2-party system, but it can't come from a couple of donors who say we're going to buy our way to ballot access without even having a candidate, right? Like, they bought ballot access in Arizona. They have no candidate. And then there's crazies trying to run under the No Labels ticket, and they're mad about it. It's like, well, you don't actually have a party. You just have a bunch of donors that are throwing money around that
Oh my God.
actually think through what they're doing. And so go read the piece. It's linked on my Twitter. Not before bed, but No Labels, it just isn't the answer. That's the long and short of it.
Okay. Well, we knew it was not good, but I didn't know that. So I'm
Not great, Bob.
very grateful that you are at Protect Democracy.
Thanks.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to figure out, I think, hold on, I'm just looking for some, it's going to take too long. I'm wondering how many electoral votes ever a third party candidate has ever gotten. So I have to look at the
Oh
Teddy.
God, I have to go back to
It's
the
1914.
Yeah.
It's when Wilson won, when Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt sort of ran against Taft effectively, but I don't know.
Everybody talks about like, well, they can't win. Well, they don't have to win to screw things up.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
They
I
can't
don't
win,
know.
but they can screw things up.
Yeah.
Oh, they can definitely screw things up.
We can lose. Everyone can lose.
Yeah,
They don't have to win, but they can force loss. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's unlikely that they'll get any electoral votes, but I don't know.
Like I said, Maine, Utah, Alaska. It doesn't take, and those are winnable because there's so much anger at Trump and Biden, and it's a thing.
All right, we're gonna have to sell Alaska back to the Russians. I think that.
Take it.
I did a terrible job when you came on talking about Protect Democracy. So before you go, tell us a little bit more about that, because it's great. You're doing great work. It's a big organization. There's a lot of people there, doing interesting things. So talk a little bit about that quickly, and then we'll send you.
Sure, it's real cool. So as I said at the top of the show, I am working with a lot of people that worked in the Obama Justice Department. So we are a cross-partisan pro-democracy group. And so what that means is that, we have progressives. There are conservatives like me. One of the guys I work with is like a super pro-life guy from the Susan B. Anthony list. But we are together working because we agree on what binds our country together. Like, democracy comes first. Like, I would have never imagined as a Ted Cruz speechwriter that I would be in this position now where I had to say, shouldn't we focus on counting votes? Don't elections matter? And so we have a lot of, even foreign policy experts that study how authoritarianism happens abroad and the lessons that we can apply here. We have an amazing legal team that is pursuing a bunch of defamation suits. You probably heard they represent Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman, who are the amazing poll workers in Georgia who testified before the January 6th committee. They're representing them against Rudy Giuliani and OAN. They are representing Stephen Richer, who is an amazing Republican election official in Arizona, who is suing Carrie Lake for defamation because she's come after him. We are doing more defamation work against people smeared by Dinesh D'Souza and Gateway Pundit. So, like, really just wonderful people who are protecting people have just been smeared by all these conspiracy theories and real harm that was done years ago. But it takes all this time to fight through the system and to hold them accountable. And so I'm just thrilled to be there. And I, used to be at the Bulwark, still love all my people there, but I'm just trying to find new ways to do this thing. So it's fun to come catch up with you guys.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep up the good fight and the good work. We're grateful for everything that you're doing. And, I guess drink plenty of water tomorrow when you're running.
Yeah, good luck.
I don't know anything about this.
This is the home stretch. We're in the taper.
Okay.
Which is all still new to me and fun. So, yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Okay. Amanda Carpenter, thank you so much. All right.
All right. She's in there doing it.
This no labels thing is I'm pretty sure, I don't know that a third party has ever gotten electoral votes. We have to check me on that. It's possible, certainly, but it's very, very unlikely, I think.
Oh,
but having said that, at this point in the whole scheme of things, unlikely is still shit we got to look at because, like you said, they're just going to do whatever they want. In Ohio, they won the right to enshrine protections, pro-choice protections into the Constitution. And then the GOP and the legislature is like, yeah, but God says we're not going to do that. This is what it is. Like at a certain point, it's just, you're either going to follow the fucking rules or you're not. And if you're not going to follow the rules because of God, I don't know what to do with that.
Well,
other than to vote him out,
The second someone defying a subpoena, a congressional subpoena, did not get thrown into the little jail cell.
Yeah.
And you called that in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, yes, you've got to do it because they just learned there are no consequences. And that's what Donald was teaching everybody. And then they tested it themselves and found out, yep, we can just do whatever we want. No one's coming for us. No one's going to hold us accountable because the system does where that might not be the case, like possibly for George Santos or Bob Menendez. It takes a long time. The system takes a long time to kick in. I'm grateful to Amanda because, listen, trying to sue people for defamation is a 6-figure adventure. And so if that institution is stepping in especially for Ruby and Shay, I think is quite admirable so that they can, they don't have to have the burden of trying to hold the people accountable that ruin their lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
And knew they were doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Announcements.
All right. Announcements.
Yeah. Somebody asked in the chat if Amanda was on my podcast, which she was last year and a half. I've lost all track of time, but it was interesting because she's the only person I've ever asked the question, why the hell didn't the Republicans get rid of Trump at the time of the first impeachment in January 2020?
Yeah.
They could have gotten rid of him. Pence would have been president. COVID would have happened. They would have had 9 months under Pence to try to show that they could do shit. And maybe he beats Biden. And she was like, no, they can't because they have to have the Trump voters. It's a personality cult. And without the Trump voters, they know they can't win. And that's why. And, she was right. So
their own personal power.
Yeah.
They didn't because of their own personal, they put their own personal power. It's like and the party kept saying, the Republicans that never Trumpers were like, put country over party. And it's like, it's not that they're putting the party over the country. They're putting themselves over, everything, over democracy itself. It's, because that's such a great job, because I couldn't just make more money at some hedge fund. Come on.
I don't know.
These people, I don't know. Let's not underestimate the blackmail. All right.
We do have, we are doing after hours tonight.
We are.
We're going to, maybe by 9, like around 9:30 ish.
Yeah.
We'll do it. Yeah. Whatever that is. And then the only other thing I have is that I had, my podcast is now off for we're off also on this show for 2 weeks.
We're off for 2
The
weeks.
next 2 weeks, it's dark. I had a great discussion on my podcast today with Elisa Albert, who's a novelist who I know, who was in Israel when the attacks happened there, and has written about it. And anyway, she came on and sort of shared her experiences with it, with what's a very complicated, just traumatizing, experience and situation. So I encourage everybody to go listen to that. It's one of the better ones I've done. I think I learned a lot from it. So please go check that out.
Nice.
What do you have? Got anything?
No, just this. We'll do our after hours.
Okay.
Everybody, if you're new and you're watching or you don't know this for some reason, to have access to the after hours, you need to subscribe and join. So you just join our membership. We keep it very, very low. So you can come in at the low bar of $1.99, or you can support us at maybe $5.99. Because everything we do here, we're doing on our own. And with our fabulous animator Chunk, and some other key folks that come in and key moments and make this thing sizzle. Everybody's just, doing it for you, for the audience. So we appreciate the support. It helps us out.
Yeah. Shout out Chunk too for the animation on my silly fake ad,
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Just going to the, there's
Yeah.
the Greco-Roman wrestling wiki page, which I
Here's
never
the
even bothered to
Wikipedia
go look at,
page. Yeah.
but there it is.
Yeah,
There it is.
All right, should we dive into our final
Let's
topic?
dive into the final topic.
Here we go. All right. Union strong.
Yeah.
All the entertainment industry strikes are over. There might be a new one, IATSE, which is the craft unions. That's everybody, editors, grips, everybody. Might go on strike coming up because they've seen the gains and they actually should. They need some stuff. But look, it was an epic strike. It went for, when you suppress labor and wages, when I say you, I mean the streamers and the studios, the way that they have been paying themselves and rewarding themselves and not paying talent and keeping people literally below poverty in the cities that, for actors that they need to live in to work and can't afford to live in because the pay is so horrendous and the residuals and all of that, and with the threats of AI and the threats of all this stuff coming in down the pike. I hope the lesson and the takeaway is not just for my industry, this industry, but for all industries, is people have nothing left to lose. They'll go ahead and be committed to be on strike for 118 days in order to get a fair, to make a living. This is just about making a fair living. This isn't about, I want some of your billions. It's literally, I'm living month to month and driving an Uber. And one issue, one problem, and I'm unhoused in a city where I can't get back in as soon as I'm out. It's just, there's no re-entry because it's so expensive. Meanwhile, you've got Zaslav paying himself, $500 million.
Well, come on. Yacht fuel is expensive.
Exactly. So maybe that lesson will be there, but I'm celebrating with my actor friends. It was a very emotional week for everybody to just feel like, oh, we're kind of out of this. It's also scary because people have been out of work for so long, and it's like, is the work coming back? And it's a difficult time. So anyone that's watching that may have been on strike, we were there for you. Thanks for being there for us, for the writers. And, we all just want to get back to work, and we just want to, work and write and act and be paid and take care of our families and have our health insurance and have our pensions. That's it. I want to say also the union, the auto union workers, so they made their gains. So I think we are in the midst of this big labor movement again, which is quite lovely. We'll see if we can get someone on when we come back from our break to talk about that with a level of expertise. But I'm, thrilled that the president we have now, Joe Biden, is a labor president, and he always has been.
Yep.
And he's embracing it. He's coming out with more. I think he had something that he did today that I missed because I was busy cooking and cleaning and doing stuff like that. But we'll talk more about that. But just as a reminder, everybody, everyone wins when you have a strong union, when you have a strong labor movement. Everybody wins. The economy wins. The industries win. The people who are the executives that are making because their shares go up. Everybody, it is the rising tide that lifts all ships. It really, really is. So support unions. If you have an opportunity to join a union, form a union, it's something that you should consider. If you're looking to shift jobs, shift industries, look for employment where there's a strong labor union. I promise you, you will reap benefits and take stress out of your life in a way that you didn't know. It's like the stress of like trying to compete and try to find healthcare, all of that's gone when you're in an effective union. You have a pension, you have that security that used to always be there, or not there, that the unions filled the gap and provided, or came in and took over when we had, as life evolved in America, and you couldn't just be a single individual earning to pay for the whole household and send the kids to college and own a home and pay and have vacation. That life went out the window years and years and years ago. And labor unions bring back the kind of support that we all need as employees to make sure that we have some stability and some future. So that's it. Just wanted to sing some praises there. Congratulate the actors. It's a great fight. They did great.
They did. Yeah. And to your point, I mean, corporations have gotten so powerful. If the government isn't going to serve as a sort of ballast against the corporations, the unions have to. It's the only other thing that's powerful enough and big enough and strong enough to do it. And, ideally you need three, labor against the, management / whatever, and then the government, the three-pronged kind of thing. So, labor's rising up. It's good.
It's good. And it's not anti-capitalistic. It's not. It's like, let's have these companies and these industries do really well.
Yeah.
And part of doing really well means that the executives, that the owners of the industries, of the companies, pay into the pension funds of the unions. And we just got to keep the Gambinos out, and it's all gonna be okay.
That's the fourth prong in the stool.
Yeah, the fourth prong is organized crime.
Well, maybe they're not.
Not in every city, but in terms of infecting the unions, but in a lot, and not in every union, but enough.
Okay, so we're going to be back at like around 9:30 for the after hours. Everybody that's a member may come and hang out with us. We would love to see you. We're going to be back on December 1st, which is next month. So we're going to miss Thanksgiving. I want to just say thank you. This Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for all of you for watching, for joining us, for commenting and hipping us to everything in the chat rooms, and generally supporting the show and creating what's a very lovely community here. So thank you.
Lovely. Yeah, I'm so grateful for you guys. You bring us hope.
You do.
You do.
You want to have the last word?
We're gonna get through this.